If stupidity is truly a societal problem, why does it consistently make so many people rich and powerful? Why do we pay for it every single day with our time, our money, and our attention? Look around your feed. Reality shows, outrage clips, and manufactured scandals dominate the conversation and the headlines. The loudest voices gain followers, brand deals, influence, status, and predictable income streams from our distracted attention. You might assume this is a generational failure or an accident of technology and changing cultural taste. But this is not random, and it is not harmless. It is a carefully built commercial industry. Ignorance is produced, packaged, and marketed as consumable entertainment, just like any other product on a shelf. Companies, platforms, advertisers, and political operators refine what hooks attention and what keeps viewers endlessly scrolling. Content that shocks, flatters, simplifies, or confirms bias consistently outperforms nuanced, difficult truth in distribution and monetization. The economic logic is ruthless, cheap to produce, fast to spread, and enormously profitable to monetize at scale. Every click, like, and share converts into data, attention metrics, and marketable inventory sold to advertisers and platforms. Algorithms learn what triggers our emotions, then amplify the easiest, most addictive stimuli for maximum engagement and revenue. When outrage becomes currency, sensationalism is rewarded, and careful thought is systematically sidelined, mocked, and dismissed as elitist. This is not merely culture breaking down. This is an attention economy optimized explicitly to monetize distraction and emotion. And once ignorance becomes the most reliable product, strategies evolve to reproduce it at greater volume and lower cost. Smart people begin performing simplicity because the payoff is real. Even subtle wisdom is packaged as entertainment. The result is a feedback loop. Attention funds production, production trains taste, and taste demands ever cheaper, louder content. We are not merely passive consumers here. We are investors funding the next round of our own collective distraction. So ask yourself this single, urgent question. Who benefits most when intelligence is replaced by spectacle and sales? When you see the business model behind the spectacle, culture stops looking accidental and starts looking deliberately engineered for profit and outright corporate control. Ignorance today is not just an unfortunate side effect of modern life. It has become an intentional output of the systems that shape culture. For decades, we were told that rising literacy and technology would create a more informed public. But the opposite happened. Information became cheap, and so did the thinking behind it. The problem is not that new generations are less intelligent. The problem is that intelligence is no longer the profitable choice for those who control what we see. Truth is expensive. It takes time to discover, time to explain, and effort to understand. Complexity cannot be compressed into 10 seconds of entertainment without losing its power. Ignorance, on the other hand, is cheap. It is emotional, fast, and simple enough to digest while you are half distracted. It travels easily because it demands nothing of the audience except a reaction. The modern media machine learned this lesson early. Platforms do not ask whether something is true, only whether it is clickable. Clicks become data, data becomes revenue, and revenue becomes the incentive to produce more of the same. The result is a factory model of culture. Attention goes in at one end, and profitable stupidity comes out at the other. You can see this everywhere. News cycles repeat the same outrage stories with minimal facts, because outrage keeps you glued to the screen. Social feeds amplify drama, conflict, and humiliation because nothing drives engagement like emotional spikes. Even education has been infected. Instead of teaching how to think, many institutions now reward memorization of slogans and fashionable opinions. Graduates are pushed to fit narratives, not to challenge them. This is why ignorance feels contagious. It is not spreading randomly. It is being mass-produced. like fast food for the mind. Fast food is not cheaper because it is better. It is cheaper because it is stripped of substance, engineered to hit pleasure centers, and designed for speed. Shallow content works the same way. The system rewards what is scalable, and ignorance, unlike truth, can be scaled to billions instantly without the cost of careful research or real accountability. So when you wonder why every platform looks the same, full of noise and outrage, remember this. It is not because humanity suddenly lost its intelligence. It is because humanity discovered that ignorance could be monetized. And in a world that chases growth at all costs, anything that can be monetized will be mass-produced. That is why we live in an age where stupidity is not simply tolerated. It is celebrated, promoted, and turned into a commodity. Because in this economy, ignorance is not just a problem to fix. It is the product that keeps the entire machine running. If ignorance is a product, then we have to ask the next question. Who designed this product and who figured out how to sell it at scale? To answer that, we need to talk about Edward Bernays, the man many call the father of modern public relations. Bernays was not just a marketer. He was a strategist, a social engineer, and the first person to weaponize psychology for mass persuasion. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the man who pioneered the idea that human behavior is driven by unconscious desires. Bernays took those ideas and applied them, not in therapy but in advertising and politics. He believed that people do not make rational decisions. They are guided by emotion, habit, and the need to belong. This insight was radical. Before Bernays, advertising simply showed you the product and its features. After Bernays, advertising sold you a dream, a status symbol, an identity. One of his most famous campaigns was called the Torches of Freedom. At the time, smoking in public was considered taboo for women. Cigarette companies wanted to double their market by including women, but social norms were in the way. Bernays hired young women to march in the New York City Easter Parade holding cigarettes, calling them Torches of Freedom. He framed smoking as an act of rebellion, a statement of independence, a symbol of female liberation. The media covered the event, and suddenly cigarettes were no longer just tobacco. They were a political statement. Sales skyrocketed. Bernays had proved something shocking. You do not sell the product itself, you sell what it means. And if you can attach meaning to almost anything, you can get the public to desire it. This was not limited to cigarettes. Bernays worked with politicians, corporations, and even governments to shape public opinion. He believed that the masses needed to be guided, managed, and sometimes manipulated for society to function. In his own words, he described this as the engineering of consent. He saw democracy as a system where elites had to quietly lead the public by shaping what they think they want. This is where the business of ignorance truly begins. Because if you can sell products by attaching them to powerful emotions, you can also sell ideas. You can sell war as patriotism, conformity as progress, distraction as entertainment. Bernays did not invent human irrationality. He simply learned how to exploit it systematically. He understood that people do not want pure truth. They want a story that flatters them, a story that feels good, a story that reduces complexity. This discovery changed the 20th century. Every major advertising campaign, every public relations stunt, every viral political message is built on this foundation. And the technology we use today has turned Bernays' insights into an automated machine. Algorithms test millions of variations, discover what makes you react, and deliver more of it, faster than any human could plan. In other words, the business of ignorance did not just happen. It was designed, refined, and perfected over a century of learning how to trigger human emotion. Bernays proved that people will line up to buy the very thing that keeps them distracted, if you package it with meaning. And once you realize this, you can never look at a viral trend the same way again. Because behind every meme, every outrage clip, every carefully crafted controversy, there is a business model. And that business model depends on you staying reactive, emotional, and just distracted enough to keep consuming. Once you understand that ignorance is a product, the next step is following the money. Because every product has a market, and every market has winners who profit when you buy. Media companies learned long ago that they are not in the business of informing you. They are in the business of capturing your attention and selling it to the highest bidder. Think about the typical news cycle. A shocking story breaks, details are scarce, but coverage begins immediately. Every channel repeats the same speculation, because staying first matters more than staying accurate. Why? Because attention spikes translate directly into ad revenue. Each viewer equals a data point, a metric, a number advertisers will pay for. Social media took this logic and put it on steroids. Your clicks, likes, shares, and comments are constantly measured, refined, and fed into algorithms that optimize for engagement. Engagement means profit. The longer you stay angry, amused, or addicted, the more ads you see, and the more data is harvested. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The cheapest content to produce is often the most profitable because it spreads widely with almost no cost. Outrage videos, celebrity scandals, and fake controversies are cheap to make and endlessly recyclable. They require no expensive research teams, no fact-checking, no deep investigation, just emotion, packaging, and distribution. This is why outrage pays. It is a perfect business model. Low production cost, high emotional response, maximum engagement, and exponential reach. Even politics now runs on this economy. Campaigns no longer need to win debates. They just need to dominate the conversation, hijack attention, and polarize voters. The formula is brutally simple. Ignorance is cheaper to produce, faster to spread, and easier to monetize than wisdom. And because capital flows where profit margins are highest, the market naturally favors the content that makes us dumber. This is not ideology, this is economics. Every click is a tiny financial transaction, a vote for what gets produced tomorrow. The more you engage with noise, the more noise the system will create. And when ignorance becomes the most lucrative commodity, the smartest players are those who can manufacture it at scale. So the next time you wonder why everything feels louder, dumber, and more extreme, follow the incentive. The system is simply doing what it was built to do. Turn your attention into profit no matter the cost to society. Once ignorance becomes profitable, the machine does not simply keep producing it, it starts optimizing it. The goal shifts from informing the public to maximizing engagement at any cost. This is where the feedback loop begins. The more outrageous the content, the more clicks it gets, and the more similar content gets produced tomorrow. Creators learn quickly what performs best. If drama gets rewarded with views, they make more drama. If outrage earns money, they turn every topic into outrage. Even intelligent people eventually adapt. When being thoughtful is ignored but being provocative goes viral, they choose provocation, because survival depends on visibility. The audience adapts too. After consuming constant stimulation, our attention spans shrink. Subtlety feels boring. Nuance feels like work. We demand faster, louder, simpler content. This is the trap. The system produces ignorance because it sells, and we keep buying it because it is addictive and effortless. And every click we make teaches the algorithm to give us more of what keeps us hooked. The result is a culture caught in a cycle of self-reinforcement. The shallower the content, the stronger the engagement. The stronger the engagement, the more shallow content gets produced. And over time, stupidity is no longer just something we tolerate. It becomes a career path, a strategy for fame, influence, and power. In this loop, the smartest strategy is to act the dumbest. because that is what the market rewards. When ignorance becomes a business model, it does not just shape what we watch. It begins to shape what we believe, how we vote, and what we value as a culture. Public discourse stops being about truth and becomes about entertainment. Political debates turn into shouting matches designed for television ratings, not solutions. Important issues are reduced to hashtags and memes, stripped of complexity until they fit inside a trending topic. Real problems remain unsolved, but the spectacle keeps us distracted enough to forget. When this happens long enough, smart people stop trying to contribute. They withdraw from public life because depth no longer pays. Why waste time building thoughtful arguments when noise wins every time? The result is a society led by the loudest voices, not the wisest minds. Policies are made for clicks, not for the long-term health of the nation. And when truth becomes unprofitable, it disappears from the marketplace altogether. Lies are cheaper, outrage is faster, ignorance is easier to sell. So that is what dominates the feed. This is the real danger. When ignorance pays better than wisdom, society stops producing wisdom. The next generation grows up thinking this is normal. What you get is not a free marketplace of ideas. You get an idiot factory, an economy that mass produces distraction and confusion at industrial scale. And the longer this machine runs, the harder it becomes to remember what an informed culture even looked like. The most important thing to understand is this: you are not just a victim of this system. You are also the fuel that keeps it running. And that means you have the power to take the fuel away. Step 1 is awareness. You have to see your attention as a form of currency, because that is exactly what it has become. Every view, every click, every comment is a vote for the type of content that gets created next. So take an audit of your attention. Look at the shows, channels, and accounts that take your time every day. Ask yourself honestly, do they make you wiser, calmer, stronger, or just more outraged and distracted? Once you see where the leaks are, start cutting them off. Unfollow the accounts that thrive on drama. Mute the topics that are engineered to make you angry. Turn off notifications that demand your constant reaction. This is not about disconnecting from the world. It is about choosing carefully what you allow to shape your thoughts. It is about regaining the ability to decide what deserves your focus. Step 2 is rewarding depth. When you find content that challenges you, that forces you to think, support it. Leave a comment, share it with a friend, subscribe, so the algorithm knows this is what you want more of. Platforms do not care about good or bad. They care about engagement. When you engage with something meaningful, you signal that there is a market for it. Enough people doing this can shift what gets promoted in your feed. Step 3 is to become a producer, not just a consumer. You do not need millions of followers. You just need to share one thoughtful idea with the people around you. Start a conversation at dinner. Send a long-form article to a friend. Ask real questions instead of sharing the latest outrage clip. Small actions like this add up. Every person who refuses to consume cheap ignorance makes it slightly less profitable to produce. When enough people do this, the market starts to notice, because every click you make is not just entertainment. It is a signal. It is telling someone somewhere, make more of this. So stop voting for ignorance, start voting for wisdom. So here is where everything comes full circle. Ignorance is not just something that happens to us. It is something we keep paying for. Every click, every scroll, every moment of attention is part of a transaction that decides what tomorrow's culture will look like. If we keep spending on distraction, distraction will keep getting cheaper, louder, and harder to escape. But the opposite is also true. When we stop rewarding ignorance, we starve the system that profits from it. And slowly, the market begins to shift towards something healthier. The question is simple, but not easy. What are you willing to stop consuming, starting today? What noise will you cut out to make room for something that actually strengthens you? Your attention is not free. It is the most valuable thing you own. Spend it like it matters. Because the day we refuse to buy ignorance is the day we force this machine to build something worth paying for.